anymore.
So you originally came up with this idea 6 years ago of adapting the Walter Kerr novel, and uh, explain the difference between what you started with and what you ended up with, and how the economy affected that change.
Well, the first act that I wrote 6 years ago was truly a corporate satire in the vein of Thank You for Smoking. And after making Thank You for Smoking, and as I started to make Juno, my life changed. I got married. I had a child, and the idea of connection became very important to me, and that felt perfect for the main character of the book and of the movie. So it started to lean in that direction, and then by the time I finished Juno, I realized that that really was what the movie was about. It was about human connectivity, about the fact that we live at a time where we text, we tweet, we Facebook each other, we're constantly emailing each other, and we're not having face-to-face conversations. So we're tricked into the idea that we're connected to everybody when we're actually connected to very few.
You tweet though. I've been following your post-production schedule very closely.
Yeah.
Why do you tweet? I mean, is there some kind of
I have a
connection?
rule. For every time I tweet, I have to give my wife 5 kisses, and that way everything stays balanced in the world.
So, you ended up with George Clooney as your main character, this corporate downsizing, air miles obsessive. How did you get him?
I had been writing the script all along with him in mind. I had always hoped that he'd come play the role. I mean, it always felt like a long shot. And then during the Juno Academy run, I got to meet him a couple times at an AFI event and something else. And I said, I'm writing a script for you. And he said, all right, well, just let me know when you have it. And I finished the screenplay, and my wife and I were actually going to Italy. I should say I was almost done with it. So I told his agent, I said, look, I'm almost done with the screenplay. I'll either give it to you this week, or my wife and I are taking a vacation, and I'll have it to you. We're going to Italy. I'll give it to you when I get back. And he said, well, if you're going to Italy, why don't you just bring it to him in person?
You were sort of hoping he would say that.
No, I really was not. You got to remember, you never know how someone's going to react to your screenplay, and the last thing I want to do is be seeing, George Clooney, in his now homeland, if he just read my script and hated it. So, but that's, how it turned out. Is we sent him the script, and we arrived at his home, and we walked in the door, and we're kind of small talking, and he just said, "So what are you working on these days?" And I said, the script? He's like, oh, the script. He's like, yeah, I still got to read that. I was like, oh, no. And we spent a few days at his house, just wondering the whole time, is he read? Is he going to read it? And one day, he just walked up to me and just said, it's great. I'm in.
Oh, that's great.
And it was one of the great moments of my life.
Explain why George, because I think it's one of the best performances he's ever given, and because it's so close to who he is, who we know he is in real life. There is a bit of a commitment phobe aspect to George, the lonely bachelor and likely to remain so. I mean, do you think, did you talk to him about that? That it was close to who he is?
I never even brought it up. He brought it up at one point very early on. I think it was in our first conversation after he read the script. He said, I see the connectivity between this and my life, and that excites me. I'm ready to kind of stare that straight in the face.